My name is Thais Gibson. I am a coach and counselor and founder of the Personal Development School, and I create daily videos on YouTube here all about the subconscious mind, integrated attachment theory, and how to thrive in relationships in the shortest period of time possible. If you're enjoying these videos and want to like, share, and subscribe, it of course helps the algorithm so much. And if you hit the notification bell, you won't miss any of our daily videos. Hello and welcome to today's video where we are going to talk about anxious attachment unmasked and how policing behaviors can really damage your relationships. So we will talk about what it actually means to police your partner. And in this video, I will take you through 5 key must-knows so that you never cause accidental damage to your relationship in this way again. So first and foremost, you want to understand what policing behaviors actually means. Now, this is actually a pattern of behavior that's usually rooted in trauma. So as we go through this dynamic here today, I want you to understand that, when we are in a policing behavior, it's actually rooted in fear because of unresolved core wounds from painful past experiences. So we are going to cover all of what this means. And I just want you to, as you go through listening to this today or hearing about this, to recognize that this is not something you should be judging yourself for, but instead considering yourself around, right? Really trying to understand why this might be coming up for you and what you can do to heal it, what you can do to nourish yourself so that you don't have to be operating from fear and thus enacting these policing behaviors in the first place. So policing behaviors are essentially any time that we use monitoring behaviors or small forms of control in our relationships to try to produce and create the outcomes that we want to see. And as I mentioned earlier, this is usually due to unresolved core wounds because of past painful experiences. So in Gibson integrated attachment theory, something we talk about all the time is how each attachment style has specific core wounds. Now, anxious attachment styles and even fearful avoidance alike tend to have core wounds where they can really fear abandonment, sometimes being betrayed or cheated on. They can absolutely fear being left alone, feeling unimportant or like their needs don't matter in a relationship. And they can also really fear being disrespected, unseen, unheard. These are all different core wounds. And core wounds are essentially childhood traumatic experiences that we have, right? If you had a lot of perceived abandonment as a child, perhaps because sometimes your parents were available, other times they really weren't, or maybe they were really emotionally available people, but they worked a lot and you had a lot of distance from them. You might have had a lot of feelings of being abandoned. That distance creates this constant feeling of abandonment at a nervous system level and really programs into your subconscious mind the potential of abandonment from people in the future. And the same thing can happen if you experience a lot of betrayal as a child. You're going to see that same sort of trajectory of experiences, where if you constantly had to walk on eggshells or you grew up in a really unpredictable environment, or there were a lot of broken promises or distrust wounds, then you're still going to have those same sorts of distrustful dynamics if you're a fearful avoidant or even an anxious preoccupied with the fearful avoidant side in your adult lives. So essentially what this means is that you have fear of people hurting you, abandoning you, not taking you into consideration, betraying you. And these can really be in that sort of box of attachment core wounding. So you might see, for example, that the output of having these different core wounds or fears are these policing behaviors. So if you don't trust somebody, you might check their phone, right? If you constantly think they're going to leave you, maybe you're monitoring who they are with. If you are constantly worried that you can't get your needs met, then maybe you try to set rules for the relationship that are really strict or sometimes overwhelming to somebody instead. Also, if you can't trust, you might be doubting or questioning your partner. And then some of the effects that you'll see from this is that you may find that your partner doesn't feel like you can trust them. And that can actually make somebody shut down, right? That can actually make somebody feel like they need to pull away or run because they can experience hurt from that. And maybe you also see that these policing behaviors accidentally push somebody away, cause somebody to feel like they're giving up their freedom and come to even resent a relationship. So these are all the different ways that these policing behaviors can impact you, but I'm going to talk to you now about what you can do about them to solve for them, but also to feel secure in your relationship dynamic at the same time. So one of the first things you want to understand here is that we will try to control or monitor when we don't know how to directly express. Okay. So let's say, for example, that you have a trust wound and an abandonment wound. And let's say that your partner is going to go away for the weekend with their friends. Well, you might do things like text them, who are you with? What are you doing? More repetitively. Maybe you check their phone when they come back from the trip. Maybe you set these really intensive rules like, you're not allowed to go away with your friends for the weekend. Or maybe you constantly doubt or question your partner or try to like question friends that they were away with or things like that. And all of these policing behaviors are just that they're going to create a lack of health in a relationship, right? They're going to cause somebody to feel resentful, trapped, especially if they have core wounds around feeling trapped or having their freedom taken away or feeling controlled. It's really going to do a lot of damage to the relationship quite quickly. But here is a much better approach. If you have those core wounds, number one, you can reprogram them. I'm going to come back to that part in just a second. But number two, and this is the really important part, is you can vulnerably communicate what you need to your partner instead. So rather than questioning, texting, calling a bunch, checking their phone, doubting them, setting really strong rules, a much healthier approach is to say, hey, for me, sometimes I can be afraid that something will happen to us. And I can feel a little nervous when you go away for the weekend. It's something I'm working on. But in the meantime, can you just do me a favor and be a little bit extra reassuring while you're away? And maybe have a time that you check in and are just present with me at some point on the weekend over FaceTime or just on the phone, or even just shoot me a good night text, like whatever you can commit to that feels good for you to still, be with your friends, but to make me feel like I matter and that I'm reassured and I can feel confident and trusting in us. And if you communicate from a place of saying, this is my fear, this is my wound, it's something I'm working on, but here I still have a need, and you're asking for the need vulnerably, that is going to have a significantly better effect on your partner wanting to make you feel that way than if you are just checking their phone, checking who they're with, asking questions, doubting, monitoring, all that kind of stuff. And you won't have the long-term detriments to your relationship that are likely to come up. Now, the other big thing is that when you have those wounds, we want to realize that any policing patterns of behavior are rooted in fear. So any control pattern is just rooted in fear. Anytime we try to control somebody else or something they're doing, there's an underlying fear and an underlying need. And when we can't understand what that fear is or what that need is, we just do the controlling thing. But if we can understand the fear or the wound and express the need, then, and expressing the need is just what we talked about, where you can just communicate vulnerably. Can you be a little bit reassuring this weekend or check in? The wound part, however, is something that we can reprogram. Now, in the personal development school, we talk about reprogramming all the time. A very common tool that we talk about is this tool called belief reprogramming using auto suggestion. And, you can check out a whole course for free for 7 days about it, but I'm going to take you through a high level component of it. So the conscious mind speaks in language, okay? The subconscious mind speaks in emotion and imagery. And if I were to say to you, don't think of the pink elephant, well, what happens? You can't help it, right? Because you don't hear language. You don't hear, your subconscious mind doesn't hear the don't. It just hears pink elephant and your brain thinks of a pink elephant. So, if I try to just use an affirmation, for example, to say, I'm not abandoned, I am connected. If I just repeat that all the time, I'm just using language. It's basically just going to land on my conscious mind. But my subconscious mind, right, uses repetition plus emotion and imagery. So if I can come up with emotion and imagery that opposes my original core wound or fear, right? So this fear of being abandoned, instead, like this idea that I am connected, or this fear of being betrayed, instead, somebody will be loyal to me, right? I can trust. If I can find evidence to oppose the opposite, and that evidence essentially is contained in memories, right? So how has my partner been loyal before? Why am I worthy of loyalty? What things can I ask for to meet my needs so that, this person is being loyal to me? How can I just communicate in a clear and healthy way to receive and accept loyalty? If I'm doing all these things in the loyalty department, and if I'm looking for evidence that somebody is loyal and that I can trust, if they do always check in, if they've always been transparent, they've always given context for things, they've always made an effort to be considerate of me in the relationship, if you can pull up those pieces of evidence, every time you pick a piece of evidence, it's actually a memory. So you say, "Oh, last weekend, my partner really checked in. My partner was really there for me." What actually is happening in slow motion is you're pulling up these images of your partner doing that, right? And so, like, if you just think of something right now when somebody was loyal to you, and you think of whatever memory that is, you'll see if you pay attention and you kind of witness your mind that that memory is a bunch of images, right? You see the images of what that person did for you. They went out on a limb, they called you to check in when you needed them the most. Like whatever it is, you see yourself on the phone talking to them when you needed them. And so it's these images, and all of our memories actually contain our emotions. So when we use that and we repeat that, we fire and wire imagery plus emotion at the subconscious level of mind. And it's a huge part of reprogramming. And that might seem a little complicated right now. I try to like not put too many reprogramming tools here because I feel like I'll explain a video and then to go into reprogramming can be really, really long and maybe sound a little bit tricky or overwhelming. But there's really just a few crucial steps to this one tool. We have a whole course, by the way, too, called 21 Ways to Reprogram Your Subconscious Mind. You can check it out for free for 7 days using the link below, and it will help you just reprogram for wounds using whatever tools are your favorite from the course of 21. But essentially in this one tool, belief reprogramming, you can plug in coming up with 10 or 15 pieces of evidence because it has emotion, imagery, and the 10 or 15 brings you the repetition. And the repetition plus emotion and imagery are what reprogram the subconscious because they fire and wire neural pathways at a subconscious level. And so if you do that for about 21 days or so, you can actually recondition these deep, deep fears of being abandoned, of being betrayed, by finding healthy opposing proof that is true. Now, of course, we can still, be mindful of red flags and ask for loyalty in relationships and communicate when we have a fear or an unmet need. And that's an important part of building that because if you're trying to reprogram and then somebody's not being trustworthy in a relationship, then you're probably in the wrong relationship, right? But if we know that sometimes we have these irrational fears and we know that they come from past painful experiences and we're projecting them onto somebody now who's not doing anything to really reasonably make us have to doubt their trust or their loyalty or things of that nature or their ability to connect and stay with us, that's where we really want to plug in those reprogramming tools. And they're also going to have a massive positive impact on self-soothing. So I have some exciting news, which is that we are doing $1,000 off of our lifetime membership sale to the Personal Development School, which means you get access to literally everything at PDS for your entire rest of your life. Essentially, that entails all of our different courses you have lifetime access to. I do 4 live webinars a week, every single week. You can access them ongoing, and you get access to all of our daily community events. So I'd love to see you on the other side, and you can access it by using the link in the description box below. So I feel like this might be a lot of information for this one video, but again, you can check out that course for free down below. But I just want you to see here in this video, in the very least, how much policing patterns of behavior can damage a relationship and what is really the underlying component that causes these things and the different impacts they have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you are enjoying, please like, share, and subscribe. And that way, if you hit the notification bell, you won't miss any of the daily videos I put out for you. Thank you.